Okay, this is a nation founded on a conundrum, which means puzzle, what Mario Cuomo has characterized as community added to individualism, which means America. Everybody works together, but they're all trying to be different. These two are our defining ideals. They're also in constant conflict. Historians today bemoan the ascendancy of a kind of prideful apartheid. In other words, oh, it tells you over here. Look, when historians look at America, they kind of see that it was wrong for America to become this great nation because it put other people down, like Native Americans and African Americans and Asian Americans, so on, saying that the clinging to ethnicity in the background and custom has undermined the concept of unity. These historians must have forgotten the past or have gilded it, cut it off. The New York of my children is no more balkanized, probably less so than Philadelphia of my father, in which Jewish boys would walk several blocks out of their way to avoid the Irish divide of Chester Avenue. I was the product of a mixed marriage across barely bridgeable lines, an Italian girl and an Irish boy. How quaint it seems now, how incendiary then. The Brooklyn of Francie Nolan's famous tree, the Newark of which Portnoy complained, even the uninflicted wasp suburbs of Cheever's characters. They are ghettos, pure and simple. Do the Cambodians and the Mexicans in California coexist less easily today than did the Irish and Italians of Massachusetts a century ago? You know the answer. Or no, you don't. The answer is yes. What she's trying to say is that America has always been divided, but it's been a collection of divided people trying to work together. Okay? And she's saying, yes, there's racism today, but it's no different than the racism that existed 100 years ago when the Irish and Italian people were fighting with each other. Not literally fighting. Okay, maybe literally. Let's move on. Okay, you have to write down the answer over here. Okay? You can pause the screen. You can take my sentence starter. But I'm gonna move on. What examples when ethnicity divided Americans? Yeah, find times when ethnicity divided Americans, when people of different races were in conflict. Okay, let's move on. If you click this, somebody will read one paragraph to you and go over it. What's the point of this splintered whole? What is the point of a nation in which Arab cabbies chauffeur Jewish passengers through the streets of New York, and in which Jewish cabbies chauffeur Arab passengers too, and yet speak in theory of hatred, one for the other? What's the point of a nation in which one part seems to be always on the verge of fisticuffs with another? Blacks and whites, gays and straights, left and right, Poland Chinese and Puerto Rican and Slovenian. Other countries with such divisions have in fact divided into new nations with new names, but not this one, impossibly interwoven even in its hostilities. So in other words, she's raising the question, what's the point of having a country where we're always fighting? Jewish people fight with Arab people. Black people fight with white people. Gay people fight with straight people. And then she says, you know, other countries, these kind of conflicts divide countries and they form two different countries. But not America, which seems to be forever united. She goes on. Once these disparate parts were held together by a common enemy, by the fault lines of world wars and the electrified fence of communism. With the end of the Cold War, there was the creeping concern that without a focus for hatred and distrust, sense of national identity would evaporate. That the left side of the hyphen, African American, Mexican American, Irish American, would overwhelm the right. And slow growing domestic traumas like economic unrest and increasing crime seemed more likely to emphasize division than community. Today, the citizens of the United States have come together once more because of the armed conflict and enemy attack. Terrorism has led to devastation and unity. Okay, in other words, she's saying, she's getting to her main point, which is there are times in American history where we are all divided. I mean, look at this, the left side of the hyphen. Okay, to highlight, you would click, drag, and then afterwards pick a color and then add a note. Okay, and then you press this thing over here, notes. You would see all your notes. Okay, I don't want you to see it. I don't want you to be distracted. But let's move on. Okay, then you would answer this question here. Highlight the contrast that Quinlan describes in paragraph 3. Show me, in paragraph 5, show me where, show me the times where, when America fought, when Americans fought with each other. Yet, even in 1994, the overwhelming majority of those surveyed by the National Opinion Research Center agreed with the statement. The U.S. is a unique country that stands for something special in the world. One of the things that it stands for is this vexing notion that a great nation can consist entirely of refugees from other nations, that people of different, even warring religions and cultures can live, if not side by side, then on either side of the country's Chester avenues. Faced with this diversity, there is little point in trying to isolate anything remotely resembling a national character. But there are two strains of behavior that, however tenuously, abet the concept of unity. In other words, America is a special country. It's the only country in the world where people of different nations can live together, have different beliefs, but live in peace and be united. We're special. Of course, you can also do that in Canada and Norway. But moving on, there is that Calvinist undercurrent in the American psyche that loves the difficult, the demanding, that sees mastering the impossible, whether it be prairie or subway, as a test of character, and so glories in the struggle of this fractured coalescing. And there is a grudging fairness among the citizens of the United States that eventually leads most to admit that, no matter what the English-only advocates try to suggest, the new immigrants are not so different from our own parents or grandparents. Leonel Castillo, former director of the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and himself the grandson of Mexican immigrants, once told the writer Studs Terkel proudly, "The old neighborhood ma and pa stores are still around. They are not Italian or Jewish or Eastern European anymore. Ma and pa are now Korean, Vietnamese, Iraqi, Jordanian, Latin American. They live in the store. They work 7 days a week. Their kids are doing well in school. They're making it. Sound familiar?" In other words, she's trying to say that the whole notion of immigrants coming to America, being discriminated against, having to struggle and find a better life, it's old. Uh, Koreans, Vietnamese, and Iraqis may be struggling right now, but that's no different than the other past immigrants, the Irish immigrants and the Italian immigrants who struggled. Okay. Tolerance is the word used most often when this kind of coexistence succeeds. But tolerance is a vanilla pudding word, standing for a little more than the allowance of letting others live unremarked and unmolested. Pride seems excessive, given the American willingness to endlessly complain about them being whoever is new, different, unknown, or currently under suspicion. But patriotism is partly taking pride in this unlikely ability to throw all this together in a country that across its length and breadth is as different as a dozen countries, and still be able to call it by one name. Wow. When photographs of the faces of all those who died in the World Trade Center destruction are assembled in one place, it will be possible to trace to the skin color, the shape of the eyes and noses, the texture of the hair, the map of the world. These are the representatives of a mongrel nation that somehow, at times like this, has one spirit. Like many improbable ideas, when it actually works, it's a wonder. So she closes by saying America is a special country. We're all different, but when tough times hit us, when there's a conflict, when there's a common enemy, we work together. And she exploits 9/11 by talking about the World Trade Center disaster and how when you see the victims, they will be of all different races, but they are all Americans. And when something like that happens, where Americans are attacked, we all look at each other despite our differences and say, we're all different, but we are united. Okay? And close this article by answering this question and this question. Highlight, use the notes feature over here. This, and then press the color. Highlight the quotation that she uses to support her claim, her main point about diversity and immigration in America. So you have to know what's her main point, and you have to highlight it. Do you think this quotation adequately, give me your opinion of the quotation. Does it adequately support your claim? Frankly, I don't think you can say no if this piece of writing is over here. Word gaps. These are to be used throughout the entire reading. 3 words that she uses to describe her ideas about diversity in America. Okay. I'll give you one. Mongrel. Okay, mixed dog. That's her idea of America. America's like a mixed dog. Find 2 more words. All right. Good luck.